Welcome to the Train of Thought podcast. My name is Logan DeCamp, and I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach.
And I'm Chloe DeCamp, and I'm a certified athletic trainer.
And we are sitting down here today because we want to help you learn and grow so you can continue to do without restriction as you age.
Be sure to listen till the end of the episode so that you can get information that you can apply to your life and follow us for more.
We're live.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Just dandy.
You look like Joe from You today.
Yeah, I never really wear a hat while we're recording, but my hair has officially gotten to the point where it's a little crazy.
It doesn't look that bad.
I guess on camera, well, now my hair's flat.
Yeah,
I have
hat hair
now. I don't know. I'm trying to wait to cut my hair until we're doing a movement workshop to fight cancer on the 31st, and then my race is the following weekend. So I'm trying to wait until almost the 31st to cut my hair so it looks presentable for that, and then it looks... I don't know why I'm trying to have my hair look decent for a race. I'm going to be wearing a hat anyways. Yeah. So I think it's more for the event versus the actual...
But also, it's just really long right now, and it's getting hotter, too. So it'd be nice to have it a little bit shorter for your race, too.
Yeah, maybe I might just keep the mullet going, though. We'll see.
Well, yeah, but, the mullet's a little long now.
Mm. Isn't it like Zach Top that says it? There's a song. It didn't take me long to get my hair in the back or something growing or something like that. I don't know. There's a song that Zach Top sings. Look it up.
I believe it.
Anywho, on different news, we're going to be talking specifically about exercise when you're exhausted, from burnout to balance. And those, this is speaking to those that are busy parents. Maybe you work a high demanding job like in manual labor. Let's say you're a blue collar worker. You're probably exhausted, especially in the summer, as if you're doing things like landscaping, like this is peak right now, you're working hard out in the field. If you're a busy parent, you're probably always exhausted because kids are nonstop. And especially now that summer's here, they're not in school anymore. So now you have kids at home all the time, screaming, yelling, and then you have work on top of that. So I feel like it's just a good time that, we talk about how to stay consistent with exercise even while being exhausted. So I was going to kind of take the lead here on kind of like a deeper level of why this is important, kind of tying it into identity. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to approach this from a physical activity standpoint. Then we'll dive into some studies, and then we'll both give you actionable steps at the end. Yeah. Does that sound good with you? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool deal. Let's do it. For those listening, by the way, I do have a stutter, so I'm probably going to mess up a couple words here. Oh, and I just lost my notes. But Thanks for your patience and understanding as I am still learning how to talk. But what we're going to be doing, diving into these notes here, the way I like to look at this is, let's just say you're very, very busy, like I said, or like you had a long week, and you need to find ways to stay consistent with your exercise routine, even despite feeling pretty run down. And this is super important, unless you are an overachiever and you're working out 5 to 6 days a week, it might be wise to get in that scheduled exercise session, even if you are feeling exhausted. But very, very important, we have to reduce intensity and volume. Like if you're had a crazy long week and you've barely gotten any sleep and it's just been a stressful week, the last thing that I would recommend is go and do a high intensity interval training session. Rather, going into the gym, showing up, just doing some light movement could actually help you sleep better that night. It could be a stress reliever. It could help do a lot of things, but being able to reduce intensity exercise and volume is going to be really, really important. But even more important is, and I just made a social media post about this. I almost said we, but I don't know if you helped me with that.
I didn't do anything.
No, I made a social media post about it's important that we don't let your negative inner voice win whenever those days come that you're not feeling like showing up. I would argue that those days are even more important. Again, unless you're the person who is working out 5 to 7 days a week, or you're deep in half marathon prep like me, and I'm actually taking a rest day today because my right quad is acting up a little bit and I'm on the line of overtraining almost right now, right? So for me, this is kind of different. But if you're somebody who every so often you'll work out, there'll be 1 week you'll do really, really well. Then there'll be other weeks you kind of don't do well, and it's kind of just back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue those days that you really don't want to show up are even more important. And the reason why that is because the more that you let that negative inner voice win, and I'm talking about the one that's like, oh, it's just one day, I'll start over next week, or there's many, many different ways that it could show up. But the more you let that win, the more you create a identity of the person who always struggles to stay consistent. Rather, on those days you really don't want to show up are the most important ones, as they create a new identity of the person who always does something because something is better than nothing. So if you can take action, even in those moments of lots of resistance and not feeling like you want to take action, you stack evidence within yourself that you can still show up, and you're the person who at least does something because something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I believe is going to help you a lot that we're going to talk about here on this podcast is called a, words are hard today, thanks for your patience, but it's called a exercise snack, and it's not food. Okay. So what it is it's 2 to 5 minutes of physical activity every 1 to 4 hours. So if you did 3 exercise snacks a day, once every 1 to 2 hours, or excuse me, once every 2 to 3 hours, it's a total of 15 minutes of doing exercise a day. Mm-hmm. Before I explain how this works, let's look at some studies, and then after the studies, we'll dive in specifically how you can do this. And what's so great about this is you don't have to go to the gym necessarily. You could do this at home, in between, at work even. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many great things about this. And plus, if you stick till the end, I have all this in writing on our Busy Day Fitness Blueprint, and we'll tell you how you can get a copy of this at the end of this as well too. Okay, so I'll let you take it over a little bit on some studies you found, and then I'll mention some studies as well too.
Yeah, I found an article that kind of went over a couple different studies that they had gone and performed, and they're all kind of like smaller scale. They're proof of concept studies, so basically just trying to see like if this was like a legit thing, like if exercise snacks were beneficial to, specifically talking about cardiorespiratory fitness and cardiometabolic health in previously inactive adults. So they were looking at things like, the short bouts of exercise. This one specifically was there was one of the studies that they did was 3 isolated 20-second all-out cycling bouts. So like getting on a little, stationary bike and trying to go all out for like 20 seconds with 2-minute warm-up to 1-minute cool down, performed 1 to 4 hours apart, like we were saying. And they looked at the VO2 peak, which is just, you can measure oxygen, and it's complicated, whatever. But, and then, performance. And then they noticed that these did improve over a 6-week period in a group of like 12 inactive adults. So small group, but was kind of interesting to see that when you do kind of like a quick, moderate to vigorous physical activity, you can see some improvements in the cardiovascular health and things. And so like, obviously when you're super inactive and you sit all day and you do not meet the goals or like what's recommended for, activity, especially like, moderate to vigorous activity, because a lot of people do like the very little basic activity, but obviously what's recommended by, everybody is like the higher you know, a little bit more vigorous so that you can get your heart rate up and all that. But obviously there's detrimental effects from being too sedentary. And so they're looking at, okay, how can we get these inactive people to get up and do something quick for short term and see if that makes any improvement, and specifically with their cardiovascular health. And they were saying this does suggest that it's a good strategy for improving those cardiovascular indices and exercise performance in those type of adults that are inactive. So kind of interesting. I think it's, you know, a good way to kind of get your heart rate up, and that's where they're saying is that's where that value will come in for improving cardiovascular health over time if you keep doing those.
Interesting. And what I also want to point out here as well too is, not to get too complicated, we can do a whole other podcast on this, but VO2 max is the maximum rate your muscles can use to use oxygen for energy in your body.
Yeah.
And a lot of studies have also shown that if you have a better VO2 max, it also improves your heart health. So just by doing exercise snacks, you could improve your VO2 max.
Yeah.
You could also boost your heart health. So like if you're somebody who has complications with your heart health, or like you're wanting to increase your longevity, doing these exercise snacks is not only a good way to, you know, reinforce that identity of somebody who's consistent, but rather help improve your longevity, help you build muscle, help you recover faster from your workout. So,
and that's specifically, I mean, you have to think you're working your heart and lungs when you're doing something moderate to vigorous as well. So that's kind of another little caveat to that, of like being able to improve the cardiovascular side of things. Kind of have to get your blood pumping, your heart moving. And so that's where that benefit comes in. If you're just walking at a leisurely pace for like 5 minutes, right, which isn't a bad thing because it's still getting up and moving around. But once again, you know, these
it's the type
studies,
of exercise snack,
it's the type that'll be important.
Which we're going to dive into as well. There's different types. Like I'm going to show you types with dumbbells, body weight, and a lot of other ways that we're going to do this as well. And I
think also in that study, or, you know, the article, they were speaking about also going like up and down stairs and stuff, and like doing stairs, like especially if you're at work, you don't have a stationary bike handy to go, I'm going to go do my biking every, you know, 1 to 4 hours, which if you did, then great. But going up and down stairs, like kind of at a quicker pace and things like that can also maybe, which
is a type that we're going to talk about. Of exercise snack. Like
we'll get into that. But.
But that's a good point though that you bring up as well. Thank you. Yeah. And one more study that I want to note on here to kind of tie this home before we talk about different ways to do this is there was a study that was performed for 28 days. So it was very, very short. I wish they would have done this for like 6 months. They probably would have seen even better results. But they looked at I don't have the exact number of people. It was a very small study, but they looked at people between the ages of 65 to thanks for your patience. Words are hard today. 65 to 80 years old for 28 days. The goal was to see if exercise snacking could help them get up from a chair easier, build muscle, and increase their strength. Over the 28 days, the participants were instructed to do 5 bodyweight leg exercises. Each of those 5 exercises was conducted for 1 minute, doing as many reps as possible. So you have 5 leg movements, exercises, and you're going to do each of the 5. So let's say I do bodyweight squats. I'm going to do as many as I can in 1 minute for that specific movement, and then the next minute, and then the next minute for 5 minutes. 5 exercises. They would do this once in the morning and once in the evening for a total of 10 minutes a day. That's it. 10 minutes a day. This is crazy because a lot of people are like, if I don't have 60 minutes, it's not worth it to go work out. Yeah. This was literally 10 minutes. And what I don't have here in the notes, I don't think it to be exact, I can find the study, is that I think only like 1 person dropped out of the study for 28 days, which is like unheard of. Whenever they do a exercise study, a lot of people drop out because they cannot be consistent, but like only 1 person dropped out. And I think it was because like they got sick or something. Yeah. But the fact is that people did this and they were staying consistent as well too with this, because it's not that hard. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, a total of 10 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the study found was a dramatic increase in the participants' sit to stand scores, being able to sit in a chair and stand up, which if you're 65 to 80 years old, that's important. That you need to be able to sit down and stand up, because there's a lot of people in that age that can't do that, unfortunately. Right. And they found a 30% increase, to be exact. Now, the study also found a very small improvement in thigh muscle and leg strength power, 2% increase in thigh muscle and 6% in leg pressing power. However, what you want to keep in mind here is the participants didn't have any external load and were performing these with body weight. Like I talked about, 5 leg exercises in the morning for 5 minutes and 5 at night for 5 minutes. So they didn't have any external load. It was all body weight. So if they were to potentially add a little bit of load, they probably would have noticed an even bigger increase in the sit to stand scores and a bigger improvement in their thigh muscle and leg strength power. So this is a great way to build muscle. Again, we have to be very careful of the intensity and volume, because if you go into this and you're just going hard for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, and 5 minutes at night, and you're doing that 7 days a week, and you're doing like some crazy circuits, you're probably going to be overtrained. Like, intensity and volume is important, but it could be a great way to build muscle, and it could be a great way for those that are exhausted and just don't know what to do and trying to stay consistent. And some other studies, like you mentioned, have shown that they can increase VO2 max. It can also help improve blood glucose levels for those have insulin resistance. So if you were to eat a meal and do this for about 5 minutes, you would increase your insulin sensitivity and help you regulate your blood sugar better. And it could be more convenient and more enjoyable for those who struggle to be consistent, which is why I'm sure you're listening so far. So here's how I would perform this, okay? Now, this is where you want to start taking your notes, and this is where you want to listen and close, okay? So the first thing you want to do is start with the goal in mind. If the goal is to improve your, this is a big word for me, cardiovascular endurance, there we go.
There you go.
Then the type of exercise snacking will be different than the person who wants to build muscle. So that's the first thing. What's the goal in mind? The second thing is choose your type of exercise snacking. The different types include dumbbells, stairs, resistance bands, body weight and body weight equipment like a pull-up bar. And another one that I didn't even think of that I should have included here is like a bike at home or a treadmill or something like that. Like, that's another form as well too.
Totally.
And then another one is dynamic movement stretches. So let's say you want to use these to improve your flexibility and your mobility. That's also another way that you could do this. So maybe your goal is you're going to improve your mobility. So then your type of exercise snacking would be dynamic movement stretches. And then the third thing is choose your frequency. If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. So we have to get crystal clear of when you're going to do this. Again, the research shows that the best benefit is performing your exercise snack for 2 to 5 minutes every 1 to 4 hours. Again, important notes to keep in mind. I just want to say one more time before I give you, I'm going to give you exactly how to do this for dumbbells, body weight, dynamic movement stretches, a resistance band, and stairs. So I'm going to give you exactly how you could do this, but real quick, before I do that, the goal should not be to train intensely during the exercise snack. Rather, that would increase the risk of overtraining. However, the goal would be to get a light pump, being able to fill the muscles with blood during those exercise snacks. If performing the exercise snacks for cardiovascular benefits, the goal should be to go out at an intensity where you could carry a conversation but choose not to because it's difficult. I'll say that one more time. If the goal is to improve your cardiovascular health, then when you're doing the exercise snack, you want to go at a level of intensity where you could carry a conversation but choose not to because it would be difficult. I'll pause for a second. Was that clear? That was a lot of words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
I think it's just important, obviously, remembering your goals and stuff. Um, I think you are at a pretty low risk for overtraining for doing these. But you have to remember you're doing them several times throughout the day as well. And if you're already exhausted, like we're saying, with all of, the things going on in your life or whatever. So just, that's kind of what we're saying in terms of like you risk overtraining is like in these specific, examples where we're talking about you're already pretty exhausted and you're already kind of overtrained.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Adding this in as your exercise for that day and for the week or whatever it is, however long, you're pretty low for having to overtrain when you're doing just small amounts, but just remember you're doing it multiple times a day and you're probably already tired. So
Yeah. And one thing I'll say there too, your risk of overtraining, like, so for example, I'll give you an example. I have a client, he does these, so he's on like a 3-day full body program and he'll do these on like Tuesday and Thursday. Mm-hmm. So for him making sure he's not going crazy with the exercise snacks on Tuesday and Thursday, so he's not just sore every single day, because let's not forget, you will not build muscle, you will not be able to increase your heart health and increase all these benefits if your body cannot recover. So if your body does not recover, then there's no benefit. So it's important that you're on a daily basis, you can recover from these. Now, if you're doing these to improve your mobility, the risk of overtraining goes down dramatically because you're just doing these till, again, the type, the frequency, all that is important. So thank you for bringing that up.
For sure.
All right. So dumbbells, exercise snack number 1. Let's say you could do 15 to 20 reps of a goblet squat, 15 reps of a shoulder press, 15 reps of a dumbbell rows. Repeat 2 or 3 more times every 2 to 4 hours. That's it. 15 to 20 reps of goblet squats, 15 reps of a shoulder press, 15 reps of dumbbell rows. Body weight, as many reps as possible in 1 minute for all these movements. Okay. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 movements. So as many reps as possible in 1 minute for squats, push-ups, pull-ups, crunches. That's it. And repeat 2 or 3 more times every 2 to 4 hours. Now, I know I'm saying this and you're like, there's no way that's enough to help me build muscle, help me increase my, help increase cardiovascular fitness. Like, there's no way that's enough. Again, it doesn't take a lot. And we often, one of the biggest misconceptions is that we think it takes so much time and energy to build muscle and lose body fat and do all these things, but it really doesn't. Like, try it for a month and I guarantee you're going to notice a difference. Now, when it comes to dynamic movement stretches, what you could do is 5 to 10 reps of a W to press, 5 reps of 90-90 with rotation, 30 to 60 second active pigeon stretch, and then 30 to 60 second active couch stretch. And then you would repeat 2 to 4 more times every 2 to 4 hours. And it really could be repeat every 1 to 4 hours, because the studies do say every 1 to 4. In my experience working with people hardly do things every hour. So that's why I said 2 to 4. And then the last 2, resistance bands, 10 reps of overhead band pull throughs, 15 reps of a banded squat, 10 reps of a banded pull apart, 10 reps of a kneeling banded shoulder press. Repeat 2 or 3 more times every 2 to 4 hours. This is the one I think people should do more, because hardly anybody I know does band workouts. And if you've never done a band workout, it will humble you. Doing that alone, you're going to be like, holy crap, I've never felt my muscles fire the way they're firing. Because something about, I don't know the exact, I could probably find it, but something about bands, you feel the muscle 10 times more working. So if you've never done a band workout, I guarantee you trying that for a month, you're going to notice a huge difference. Totally. The last thing is stairs. So like, let's say you're at work, or maybe you live at home and you have stairs. Walk up and down a flight of stairs for 5 minutes. Again, this is really important. Going at a pace to where you could have a conversation, but choose not to because it would be difficult. And then you repeat 2 to 4 more times every 2 to 4 hours. And there you go. That is how to do different forms of exercise snacks if you're feeling exhausted, burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed, and you need to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Any questions about that?
I think it wraps up nicely. I think it's just a good reminder as well, because we're talking specifically for those who are like, burnt out, tired, exhausted, or whatever. But this is also a good way, I mean, we talked about it at the beginning. It would be ideal if you can get into the gym and, do your, longer bouts of exercise. That's obviously a really great way of doing it. But for those even starting out and needing just like, okay, I need to do something and start out somewhere, getting into exercise snacks is a good way to do it, at least for getting started and being like, okay, I can move my body like this. I can do it. I can figure I made the time for this. I could probably make the time for, longer exercise sessions or something. You know what I mean? So not only is it good for when you do need a little bit of a break or need a second to, back off from the craziness of life, right?
Yeah.
But it's also really good for those wanting to get into exercising more regularly.
Yeah. And one thing I will say as well, too, this could also be a good thing for those that are overachievers. Because I used to have a client, she was a busy mom, and she had like 3 jobs on the side too. So she was a busy mom and then had 3 jobs and then trying to work out 6 days a week on top of that. I'm like, it's just too much. So we went down to 2 days a week and she was losing her mind. Like, I cannot work out 2 days a week. Like, it has to be 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's add exercise snacks into your routine. And she enjoyed that. And some days she did yoga. Some days she did band workouts. And that's kind of what we did. And it's just a great way to help bring down intensity and volume if you're somebody who is a overachiever and doing too much as well, too.
Really, if you're really busy and your schedule demands a lot from you. So
correct. Yeah. All right, last thing, and then we'll catch you on the next one. But if you made it this far, here is your free Busy Day Fitness Blueprint where you can get all this in writing. Send me a email at logan@champ-camp.com for your free Busy Day Fitness Blueprint. I put all this in writing, and you can reference it whenever you are super busy on the go and you need to do something, because again, something is better than nothing. So
totally.
There you go. All right. We'll see you on the next one. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the description below, and we'll see you on the next recording.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye.